How's everyone doing? Welcome to Bengals Army. I got my boy Zim on. How you doing, Zim?
Doing pretty damn good, man. I feel really good, man. I'm excited to be here. I'm glad you got me on here.
Yeah, bro. It's been a minute. I know when we first started the show way back a whole year ago that you hopped on with Mon for a little bit and figured it's about time we get Zim back here. So the off season, bro. How we feeling with the some of the moves we made? You got a favorite move? You got a move you didn't like, or you think overall was just pretty solid?
I thought it was pretty solid. I'm a fan, so you don't get everything that you want. You know what I mean? But some of the top or some of the top targets that I wanted. I was really excited that the Bengals went and got like Shelton Rankins. You asked like what was my number one? It's got to be Shelton Rankins for me because as soon as Ogunjobi left, I don't think we've ever had a replacement for Ogunjobi. So I was really excited to finally get like some interior pass rush. I thought the Von Bell one is super, super underrated. You didn't pay
Yeah,
anything. You got the Panthers paying the tab on it. You get the leadership. You get the communication back on the back end. And I think that one is a super, super underrated one as well.
yeah, I agree with you there, man. I like bringing Vaughn back. It's kind of like Mike Thomas, having Uncle Mike in there teaching the boys up. And I think Vaughn's still got a little juice. I think he's got something to prove, and I think he's got some more. I think he's got a good year left in him. I think he can come in and coach the boys up. What about Dax Hill? What do you think about him? You think he's going to start playing the nickel a good bit? You think we're going to start cycling him in some, making a role for him?
I think, in the all season, they talked about how they want to have a defined role for Dax Hill and they don't want it to be like this hybrid piece. But I think him being like this hybrid option, I think is really, really good for the team. I think his ability to kind of lock in on tight ends, him being able to play closer to the line of scrimmage and make plays, those are all the things I think are super valuable. And if it's not a communication issue, he's shown like he can play the deep thirds and play the long ball. Like if there is a deep pass, it's just like certain games. Ravens week 2 stand out to me. The deep pass to Zay. You got the last game of the season. It really pissed me off that he let bums like get behind him and 2 touchdowns at the end of that game. Like I watch a lot of stuff that I think people kind of forget about, but those communication issues are the reason why you bring back a Von Bell. And then you still got 2 more years, of Dax Hill on contract or full control and even the 5th-year option as well, too. So the Dax Hill story, I feel like is just kind of starting. He actually graded out way better than what I thought in a lot of different metrics. So I think a lot of people are really hard on him. I think if you're saying that you're in a Super Bowl run, you got to know what you got, and you got to know that this is a guy I can rely on in these spots. And I think it might take a little bit longer than what people want, but his athleticism, once it catches up with the mental, I think it'll be a really, really cool chess piece.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I remember Dax Hill in the preseason. I really loved what he was doing, man. In the preseason, it was his rookie year. He was looking good. He was flashing, showing some stuff, and I was like, "All right, this dude's it right here." I know he was a guy I wanted too. I wanted the Bengals to draft him. Just the writing was on the wall though with Jesse Bates. Now I would have loved to keep Jesse. I think he was valuable. But if you think back, Jesse had his up and downs too, especially early in his career. And I can remember him having, first half of the year would start slow, and then the second half, man, he just would play, and it was like, where's this guy been, And then he started putting it all together, and playoffs came around and came in clutch. Yeah, how do you feel about Jesse getting the All Pro nod?
It was bound to happen, once guys leave the Cincinnati Bengals, then they get their proper recognition, right? So it was bound to happen. I think people, I ain't trying to move the conversations away. I think the same thing is potentially going to happen to T. Higgins. I think once he leaves, I think people are going to understand that T. Higgins, those type of players just don't grow on trees. And to me, it's the same exact thing. As long as he's a Cincinnati Bengal, he's not going to get the target share that he would get on another team. And then he's also not going to get the recognition, just like Jesse Bates. Like, bro, T. Higgins, that type of wide receiver, he can get 1,000 yards in his sleep. Like, I don't think people are understanding how good he is. And I have a theory, I guess, on Bengals fans, like as a whole, like that jersey that you got behind you, I remember when he was about to leave. And I think AJ Green's my favorite player, but I feel like our fan base, if a guy doesn't do like a long-term deal, it's like there's a habit of like turning on that person. I want to ask you this. As far as top 5, top 3 on your team, do you think T. Higgins is a top 5, top 3 player on the Cincinnati Bengals?
100%. Yeah. So my thought is, if T was to, so say we don't tag T, we didn't tag him at all, right? He hits the market, he's out there. Whoever signs T, it's going to be huge. That's going to be breaking news. It is going to be massive. You think Stephon Diggs was a big deal for Houston. Like, if T would get a deal, I think it'd be bigger than that. I think I think NFL media would explode. I truly do, because I think he's that valuable.
Did you see after Joe Mixon was traded? Like now, like I remember I was at the gym and I was looking on TV and they were like, Houston, Texas, all these weapons. And then it was like Joe Mixon, Mixon at the top of everything. Joe Mixon, like, while he was a Bengal, like I don't think anybody outside, like I think fantasy football, like he was like the number 6 running back this past season. And our fans just was like, I don't care. He falls down. Like, that's a whole nother story. But, like, it's like this, I don't want to call it hatred, but it's like this bias that is like so heavily swayed against the Bengals that when players play for them, I don't think that they get the true recognition. And I think our fans, like, even if it's just 20% of the fans, they start to kind of fall in line with that and be like, maybe T. Higgins really isn't that good. Maybe, Joe Mixon really isn't that good. And that's all it takes, because you have the national perspective that doesn't really give the Bengals, a smaller market team, the credit anyway. Then you got like a portion of the fan base that doesn't do it. And depending on how, like how many followers the person is that says it, that can matriculate throughout the whole fan base. And then before you know it, everybody's now turned on a player. And I feel like, I don't know, I didn't want to make the conversation that, but you asked about the base one, and it's eerily similar to the T. Higgins one, except I think that the position itself is very, very different. And so the way the Bengals can handle it and go get return on it later on is very different.
Yeah, I agree with that too. Mon says, "Whoday, what's up, Mon? Good to see you, buddy."
What's up, Mon?
Yeah, dude. I agree with what you're saying with his Bengals fans not valuing him. Having him back for another year is going to be, especially if he stays healthy, bro. I mean, I really hope he does stay healthy. If he stays healthy, look what he did when Jamar was hurt. When was it, with his hip 2 years ago, man? It was four games that we just relied on T, and he showed he could be a number 1. And if you want to compare him to someone, Michael Pittman came out, same draft class, couple rounds out, or a couple picks after him. And I mean, he got a pretty good payday, but I think T should get more than him, but not a lot. I think he got 3 years, $75 million. So if you get 25, 26 mil for T, I'd give it, man. 3 years, give it to him. He's in his prime. Let this dude go. Now, I don't know where they're at. I mean, they could be looking at 30 million or something. I don't know, but that would be a little rich. You got to figure
30 is crazy. 30 for a guy coming off an injury is nuts.
Yeah. So, I don't know. 25, I'd be cool giving T 25.
I don't think the Bengals would mind it either. The agent Mulligetta, all of his clients, I watched throughout the free agency, all of his clients got 65% or more guaranteed. 65% of the contracts guaranteed. So in a hypothetical, you're pretty much, say T gets a 4-year deal or something, like you're guaranteeing over 40 something, almost 50 something $million in the, like if it's 25, million or whatever.
Well, bro, we're giving him 21 guaranteed right now. Like
23.
And people are talking about tagging him next year, It's like, well, right there's 40 million, like there's 40 some million right there. I'm not saying we'll tag him next year, but
damn, I would, but this is the difference between him and Bates. This is the part that's like our fan base doesn't hear this enough. I'm gonna condense it as much as I can.
You're good.
And I did a show. Mon is on the Cincinnati pod with us or whatever. Me and my boy Ace. I did a show where we were doing this. I had a live debate with Joe Goodberry. At the time, he was saying
I
T
heard
should
that,
he should get traded. And I explained this to people, and it's very different in the Bates. They didn't tag Bates the following year and just get anything because they didn't have the cap flexibility to do so. It is a little risky. Like, say you tag him and something crazy happens, then you're on the hook for paying. They will have to pay $26 million again next year, right? Mm-hmm. What you do is, if he has a really good season, which I think he will, I'm a Bengals fan. I want him to have success. If he has 1,000+ yards, every single team in the NFL is going to say, I would like that dude to be a number one wide receiver for me at that point. So you tag him again, so you gain back control again. But you're doing it this time to tag and trade. They didn't have the ability to do that with Jesse Bates. So a lot of people say, why didn't they do that with Bates? They didn't have the flexibility to do this. So if they do, I think at that point, you would then have a wide receiver that has 3,000-yard campaigns. He's 25 years old. At that point, he'll then be at the prime of his career. So then a team will be offering more than just what, like right now, his stock is at his lowest value. He just came off a rough injury. Somebody, or like little soft tissue issues. Somebody in the comments said soft tissue injuries are no joke. He had that for a year. If he could prove, even if he misses a week or two or even 3, and he has over 1,000 yards, that will prove to people that he's worth a first-round pick. And then some. Because if you go looking when AJ Brown was traded, it was a first and a third. The only difference with me and T. Higgins to me is that Jamar Chase takes up 100-something targets every year. To me, T. Higgins is AJ Brown. But our fans are just so caught in right now. He's AJ Brown to me. Like, if he goes to any team and he gets 100-something targets, I promise you, he's the number one wide receiver, and he's AJ Brown all over again. Dude, and AJ Brown got a first and a third-round pick.
I said that earlier. Not obviously on this podcast, but earlier this year, after the season was done, I said that and got ate alive, bro. People were going crazy on me, like, dude, if you take what you can get, if you can get like a third and a fifth or a second and just a second round, I'm like, what? Dude, one, the Bengals aren't going to do that. He was the 33rd overall pick. The Bengals are going to value him as a first round guy. He's came out, he's overproduced than what you think a second round receiver. Debating most of the time, you get some dudes that come out in the second, they ball out and they play great like T, and you get other guys like a John Ross that comes in number 9 overall or whatever he was, top 10 pick, and doesn't do nothing. So I think they I like what you're saying, because that is what I was saying. Now, I wasn't saying he was the same player. Now, what I said was I took the stats of AJ Brown's I think his first 3 years.
Thank you. That's what you need. Yes, that's the perfect thing I was about to say. Yes.
So I took the first 3 years of their careers, and I matched them up. They're pretty much identical. And the dude's argument was, well, you didn't give AJ Brown's like second and third year. I was like, well, yeah, or his fourth and fifth or whatever. And I was like,
that's with the new team, though.
That's with a new team. That was when the trade happened. So this is the value he got when the trade happened. He got a first and a third.
Bro, so why does our fan base not understand that? Or like, what are they not comprehending? And think about this.
Why you argue with me for when I want the best for the team? I'm trying to tell you this guy's worth something. And you're sitting here saying he's not worth nothing. That makes no sense.
This is eerily similar, and I don't know where it comes from. I'm so glad that you're saying this. I don't know where it comes from, other than I think that this is my theory. When fans don't get a long-term deal, like Cincinnati Bengals fans don't get a long-term deal, they take it as the players like selfish or they're greedy or something like that. That's the only thing I could come up with, because there's no way you could watch them in that Vikings game. Because did Jamar even play in that Vikings game?
Dude, I honestly don't remember, but that touchdown there at the end when he comes back at the pylon and stretches out.
I mean, come on, bro. When he's healthy, like, listen, you could compare all of those numbers and everything like that too. But then you could ask that dude, well, all right, well, cool. Let's compare AJ Brown in the Super Bowl. Like AJ Brown went to a Super Bowl, or like let's whatever. Was AJ Brown the leading yards in the game? Because last time I checked, T. Higgins had 100 yards in the Super Bowl, more yards than Cooper Kupp in that same game. T. Higgins also, you know what I mean? So, and 2 touchdowns. So we could compare numbers all day. Like, people will do that. Like,
MVP. Good chance. Good chance.
It's a good chance. And we could compare numbers all day, but one part of football is this underlining thing where you don't really have a way to quantify what was that guy like in key moments. Jonah Williams is a pretty solid tackle, but the knock on him for me is in key points in the game, whether it's the playoff, whether it's going against Myles Garrett, whether it's going against whoever, at key points and key moments in games, he had a tendency to give up a big play. And so what we do, we call that dog. I don't think he ever had that dog in him. T. Higgins, literally, we're down 21-3. I'm at Arrowhead. If T. Higgins doesn't play in that game, we don't go to the Super Bowl. He literally was the target. Jamar Chase had like 40, 50 yards in that game or something like that. T. Higgins was the guy that when Job needed a catch or whatever across the middle, arms outstretched or whatever, like that was the guy to go to.
Remember that third down play at home? I believe it was at home. When we were playing the Chiefs that first game, we need that third down conversion, and that was the team. We milked the clock out.
Yeah. Oh, you talking about the closeout? You talking about the December game, the third one we went 3-0 against? Yeah.
Yeah, so, that was their second game.
And I could see, like, and this is the part that they try to make me feel like they be like, bro, like, you're overvaluing. Joe Burrow just needs, like, all he needs is protection. I hear you, but at the same time, there's validity to saying that T. Higgins is a fringe top 10 wide receiver. Like, in fantasy football and all these different things, he was always drafted, like, in the top 10, like, all these other years. This upcoming year, maybe not because of the injury or whatever. But the reason why I bring up fantasy football is because we're all on one accord. Fantasy football brings up the projection of a player, what a player has accomplished, and the fit for the player. So yes, it's called fantasy football, but it's dealing with real life situations in the situation that the player is in. And 9 times out of 10, most NFL fans around the world are banking on T. Higgins being a top 10, top 15 wide receiver production wise. So now when we get into a trade scenario, why would I take a third and a fifth just because he had a rough year? The one other thing that I wanted to say is, like, say he doesn't have 1,000 yards, right? Everybody in here will then, because that will be the argument against it. Like, well, what if he doesn't have a good year? You'll all be like, whew, I'm glad I didn't give him 40, 50 million guaranteed. This tag is the best scenario for both parties. And the kicker is, after this season, they'll just tell David Mulligetta to go to the combine, tell him to go wherever he wants on the NFC side, and go find us whatever trade partner that you want to go give us that AJ Brown like return, first and a third. All you and then David Mulligetta knows everybody. The Bengals will then use David Mulligetta as the agent, to the liaison, to go and get the best deal. You know what I mean? So people aren't understanding that scenario that I'm painting. I painted a picture of the best case scenario. You win a Super Bowl or you go to a Super Bowl. T. Higgins is a part of it. And then you tag and then you trade and get more return. And now, mind you, Brock Bowers, whatever wide receiver that you like, I don't know, McMillan, whatever, has a great year. And now he's in your system and you didn't just go without your wide receiver 2 and 3. You're able to now go through the season with the known entity in T. Higgins and Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow, and the new wide receiver getting them part of the system. And then next year you trade them and get your return. And now the transition has happened. And I don't know why the higher ups in our, like, Bengals hierarchy don't give those scenarios enough for me. And the Mixon one, I was like the same way. They tried to say I was toxic, but all I was doing is giving scenarios on how this thing could go. And as soon as the Texans go and get him, they go give him a $30 million deal after they told the whole entire fan base he had no value. It doesn't, like, some of the stuff doesn't make sense, bro. Like, you don't have to love Joe Mixon or love T. Higgins, but you have to understand that these are still good players at a good age. Like, Mixon is only 27. T. Higgins is only 24. That's value. That's tremendous value in itself. And I don't know why our fan base, like, turns on these guys so quick, and it kind of frustrates me.
No, dude, I get the frustration. Now, with Mixon, I was tore. I think what we were paying him was, was slightly high. It would have been nice to get something, last year when they restructured it, it would have been nice to have restructured it where it would have worked out to keep Mixon this year. Ideally, that would have been what I wanted. I think the team's better with Joe Mixon. And that's the way I look at things. Is the team better with this player, or are they going to be worse off? And that makes it pretty simple, in my opinion. But yeah, Joe did a lot of great things. I love guys that go out, interact with fans, throw balls with kids. Even if you go to a Bengals game and they lose like they did back, when I grew up. I mean, I grew up through the 90s, and I live in an area where everyone's Pittsburgh fans, Browns fans, so I had to hear it all the time. And I was like, well, you don't got a Corey Dillon, you don't got Chad Johnson, you don't got a Big Willie. Like it, we had these players and stuff, made it fun to watch when I was 10 years old and I started knowing who players were and understand the game. But it was still, man, it was rough back then. But now it's a little different. We got a good team. Kids are going to go out and watch them play. But when you have your favorite player, the star running back of the organization, out throwing balls to kids and being a good dude, like I appreciate that a lot. That means a lot to me. And I know you've had a lot of guys come on your show and talk to you. Like that's cool. Like people that will actually take their time, spend their time invested in fans. That's awesome. So I can understand. I can understand the love for Joe. The money was a little different. I wish things could have worked out a little differently. I think the team's better with him, but I think Zach Moss. I would love to see. I'm a Bengals fan. I would love to see Zach Moss come in and have a great year. He's a good pass blocker. He can do some things in the run game. We might have saw the best version of him last year, or that might have just been the bottom of the iceberg. Like he could have a lot of room to grow still. So how do you feel about Zach Moss? You excited to see what he can do, what he brings to the team, him and Chase Brown and possibly a draft pick? There's some draft picks I really like that I think can make this backfield nasty.
Yeah, I think the running back by committee approach is like what I like. I think in a draft that they'll have an opportunity, especially with that extra compensatory pick. I think they'll have a chance to go get like a top level running back. And will they do it? I'm not sure. I think that they'll believe in Chase Brown and Zach Moss a lot more and give them more opportunities. I think that in the third round, though, I would start looking at running back. It's like if Benson was still there, I'll look at him.
Jonathan Brooks,
Jonathan Brooks.
If he didn't have an injury, he would have been a lot higher than where he's at. He might fall a little bit, and he could be a steal.
Every time I do like a mock, I always look at running back starting in the third in that compensatory pick. Like if they don't use it to move up or something, I always look at like a primetime guard / center or like a running back that has like how you were just talking about, like with Brooks. There's a bunch of guys that I think like a Jalen Wright in the fourth.
Jalen Wright, bro, 23-mile-an-hour runner, bro. Like
I think him in the fourth. I don't know if the Bengals would value him as much as me on the strength of they already have Chase Brown. So, and then you got a couple of this too. Think about the new return game. Like the way that I don't think people are talking about it enough. I watched the highlight reel on UFL on like just touchdowns from return. Generally, it's like a bigger guy. It's a guy that could break some tackles. You saw the Chiefs go get the rugby player. You saw the Steelers go get Cordell Patterson. So you need like a bigger guy that has like a little bit of shiftiness because the field is more condensed. And people are not talking about the return. That is a major change in football this year that I don't know if people are understanding. There's a lot of ramifications from returns and how they will affect like the end of games, I think, too, and like the ability to maybe break one or the ability to kind of strategically plan stuff or the ability for the kicker has to kick in between, like the 20 and the goal line and all these different things. And if you mess up, you could potentially put a guy like Justin Tucker like right in field goal position just off that. So it's a lot of strategic things that are going on behind the scenes that you got to do that. And I think that's coupled with the new running back. I will put one of those guys like back there, or I think Chris Evans, somebody said, I think Chris Evans, if he's still on the roster, he's like the prototypical returner in my mind, like that you would want to see. He's got the shiftiness of it. and he's not small. I don't know if Charlie Jones is like the guy in this new formula. Like punt returns, sure, but kick returns, you need to be a little bit bigger, man. The field is condensed and you're getting hit. Like that guy is small.
How would you feel about? Okay, I know this ain't realistic, but Pac-Man. So I know you need a guy with good vision, right? But how many times did Pac-Man have a dude right up in his face and he'd cut, and maybe he didn't pick up 40 yards or nothing, but he might pick up 10, 15, and you're just like, man, how did he catch the ball with a guy 5 yards from him, just blazing down on him and still get by? I mean, so he had some vision. So I don't know if Charlie's got that I don't know. We've seen a little bit of it, and he was hurt some last year with the shoulder, and he played through it. And I mean, having shoulder pain, bro, that's not fun to play through. But I don't know what he's got there. So there is a dude I'll put you on. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's from New Hampshire. Dylan, I believe you call him. His name's Labe. Dylan Labe. Have you heard of this kid? So watch him. Some of the catches out of the backfield this kid has. Dude. I don't think he's super fast. But I don't know what his 40 time or any of that is. But he's a guy that would be interesting to put back there in special teams. I forget who I heard talking about it. So I wish I could give him some credit because I didn't really watch a lot of this kid or anything. And somebody talked about him. I looked up New Hampshire and started watching him play. And I was like, man, this guy, he could be something like a 5th round, possibly that would really be interesting to have.
This might be a hot take. I think it's so important. You're going to see a lot of teams, even the undrafted guys, but I think that the Bengals, like 6th, 7th round, are going to kind of get ahead of this thing. I think that they're going to draft whoever their returner is. I think it'll be him, because you gotta have 2 guys. Like if y'all gotta go look at it. If y'all listening to this, the return thing is a big deal. It's a critical change in in the NFL as we know it. But you need 2 guys, and I think that they're going to draft. And I know some people are like, I think they should draft a punter. I don't think they're going to. I think they're going to use that 6th or 7th round pick to bring in a guy potentially to be like this returner, and then also to watch the UDFAs. I think that a lot of teams are going to bring in guys that they're just going to want to see. How well are they returning on these type of kickoffs? And you're going to see a major change to UDFAs. They're going to have a lot of guys that they're just going to deem as specialists that are because now I think like 70% of the kicks are now going to get returned. It's a big function of the game where it's like now 2023 and all this other. I think it was like it got down to like 20%. So like people weren't even caring about kick returns. Now this could be a big thing that could swing a game, and the strategy behind it. Like I would love to see like somebody. I know Belichick isn't like he doesn't have a team, does he?
Bill? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what Bill's getting himself into.
Somebody like that would, and I thought it was interesting that the Chiefs got that rugby guy, but like somebody like the one thing that makes Bill Belichick like really, really special to me is like any little small function of a game that he can kind of like push the envelope on or take advantage of. He does it like better than any coach probably has ever done it before, like or coaches at least of my generation or whatever. But I would be very interested to see like what he does, because somebody's got a trick up their sleeve that they might not even pull out until like the playoffs. But something like you think about like the trickery and all the like all the stuff that you can do with this. There's going to be a lot of talk about this later on, and I'm very surprised that people are not talking about returns at all.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I do think the same. When I've been looking at like guys that might fall like 5th, 6th, 7th round, even possibly undrafted, and it's just definitely something I need to watch more of and get some more players under my belt and see who I like and whatnot. But I mean, Chase Brown was a guy I really liked, man. He came out in the 5th round, and I thought he would go higher than that. I didn't even think he was on the board at that point. I remember watching like, oh, Chase Brown. I was like, damn. I was like, Chase is still on the board. I was like, that's a great pick. I love Chase Brown coming out, man. I really did. So this year, do you have any guys that you think are going to be like solid breakouts? I think Chris and Tony, they weren't able to make it today, but I think we talked about it the other day. But I'd like to hear maybe who you think could be a breakout guy this year. And it could be just, somebody like Cordell Volson taking that step. Maybe we get somebody in the draft and pushes him and he plays a full season like he has been ending the season.
I don't know if it's a breakout, but I will say that I think Trent Brown, I don't think people are really understanding. Just 3 years ago, he was the highest paid offensive lineman in football. Like, it wasn't even that long ago. Like, it's not even really a full 3 years. It's like 2 and like 9 months or something like that. But like, he's one of the guys that, because of his size, I wouldn't call it a breakout, but I don't think people are understanding how much different the offensive line is going to be with him. And I get it. The injury conversations will pop up, and I get that. He just came off of the season where he was 100% fully healthy. I think our training staff is pretty good, and guys relatively stay healthy for the most part. So if he's playing, I think that is a big difference, because he's one of the guys in the NFL that you can put on an island, and that's the Bengals are very suited towards what he does really well, and he's not coming in like La'el Collins or something with a bad back this time. Also, right. I would think that I think Chase Brown, I don't know what it will look like, but when he gets the ball with Joe Burrow and Joe Burrow just throws him like a dump off or anything like that, and it's out in the open field, and if he could stretch and test those perimeters, then the defenses that we were playing, they're going to have a lot of stuff to make up for, because that speed out in the open field is dangerous when you got a Jamar Chase and a T. Higgins running down the field. And then the other person is Yoshi. I think that Yoshi has the chance to go and do something special. To me, he's got elements that remind me of Chris Henry. And Chris Henry in the 2005 season only had like 700 yards or so, right? So like our vision of like what Chris Henry was, most people, like, because he was gone so soon, you're like, man, he would have been one of the greats. I'm not saying that, but he was kind of like, at the time, he was kind of like Julio before Julio was Julio, before Julio was in the league. And that ability to stretch the field, world-class athlete jumping in those spots. And maybe the Bengals don't run 3 wide as much, but if he gets those same opportunities, and he only had those limited ones last year and had 4 touchdowns, I just think that with Joe Burrow out there with that, I think that sky's the limit for that dude. I don't know how soon they'll draft a wide receiver. I think the evolution of the Bengals, though, kind of has more tight end, into their offense, more under center and stuff like that. And maybe Yoshi doesn't have like all these snaps, and they don't run 3 wide like they just were all the time. But his impact in the red zone and what he can offer this team, because he's going to get one-on-one situations, I do think it gives him an opportunity to give him like 700, 800 yards, depending on how many snaps they give him this upcoming year.
Yeah, my thought with Yoshi is I don't know if I see him being a true number 3 guy. Like, I could see it happening. I could see the process developing, and he does become that. But I just don't know at this point. So I would be cool with the Bengals taking like just somebody different. Xavier Legette. He's kind of a different style dude. I know he only had like 1 year under his belt where he really broke out, and that was last year. He had kind of his breakout year. But the dynamic he brings, just the yards after the catch, yards after contact, he brings a different dynamic. He's a bigger body dude. He's got a lot of stuff that he can bring to the table. Malachi Corley, kind of the same, a little different body style. I think he might be a little smaller, but he's still a decent sized guy, but still a lot of yak. There's just a lot of different things I feel like you could do with them. You could get the offense to be a little more creative than if you went with like a Ladd McConkey in the second round. Like, these are guys I'm thinking like these are pretty high picks, like second round picks, and Ladd might not be there.
Ladd will go crazy with the Bengals. Ladd McConkey will go crazy.
Yeah, I mean, his route running, his overall speed, like I think if you put him in the slot, this dude's going to toast some people. It'd be interesting having a Ladd McConkey, but let's just say Corley falls to the third. Like you see it in mocks. I don't see that happening. In my opinion, I think Malachi Corley's going to go a little higher than that, at least before we pick. in the
I
third.
think so because it kind of reminds me of like Laviska Shenault, like in the
Yeah,
sense of
no, that was
you,
T.
you
Higgins draft.
yeah, you know, it's a guy that if you have the correct scheme and like say you're the 49ers and you're Kyle Shanahan and you want a guy that can be, you know, super tough, break tackles, going across the middle, schemed open, and you could scheme it open. I just think that there's only a few teams that can maximize Corley to me.
Mhm.
You know, there are guys even like I think in the third, like Javon Baker, that I really think is
I
special
like
too.
Javon Baker. I like Javon Baker a
I
lot.
like Javon Baker a lot. See, we're Bengals fans. Look. When I get on the internet, I start bringing up wide receivers and they freak out now. Like I'm like, what happened to the like my whole life?
Dude,
I've never been a Bengal fan and not had a top 10 wide receiver and not had weapons. Like it's just part of who we are. Like bro, like I've been looking at banging out offensive line, defensive line film. I'm on this system now called Playback TV. If y'all don't know, it's really dope. We're able to talk like how we do on Twitter Spaces, but we're actually showing video and stuff. So we've been watching film. You need to come on there. But we've been watching film. It's playback.tv. It's a free app on your phone. But the name of the room is called Ringless Bandits. But we break down film, go look at a whole bunch of players and stuff. And I've been doing that so much that we don't even look at wide receivers. And now I'm like, let's look at some wide receivers because it's just part of who we are. Like, like you can't be a Bengal fan and not be like a big fan of wide receivers. It's like us.
Dude, I'm a host for wide receivers, bro. I fucking watch these guys.
For us, the Vikings, and maybe I would kind of include the Steelers. Like you can't find me another team that has drafted wide receivers as good or as often as the Cincinnati Bengals, and it's just a part of who we are. So like when people now are like, just protect Joe Burrow, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna protect Joe Burrow, but give me some weapons too, because like it's just, I don't know, it's just who we are,
dude. So Javon Baker, I said this before, and I was on my buddy Dale's Bengals and Brews show. Or he might have been on mine. I kind of compared Javon Baker to Jamar Chase, and I think they took it out of text what I was saying during the time. But what I was meaning by it was his sideline, and I end up rebuttaling and saying what I was meaning. But his sideline catchability, the way he gets his feet down, just the way he seems like he just naps the ball out there. He seems strong at the catch point. Like there's some traits there. I see some traits. I'm not saying obviously he's not Jamar Chase, but you can see, in my opinion, I see some traits, and that's why I like Javon Baker so much. Do you agree with that? Disagree? What's your thoughts on the guy?
I don't have a good comp for him. I need to think about it. The
I'm
Jamar
not
comparison.
like, I'm not going to copy him to Jamar. Like don't think I'm crazy.
You're just saying like the contested catch stuff is like he's got strong hands. Javon Baker, I think for the Bengals would kick ass, bro. Like it would go crazy. Somebody in the crowd said Jermaine Burton. I think the character issues with Burton, if you go to kind of look it up some whatever, like I don't know if the Bengals would be in on him, but I just started watching him like a week ago. But Javon Baker, I like a lot. There's a ton of wide receivers, but Ladd, I think that the Chiefs would entertain Ladd at 32. Like that's how good I think Ladd McConkey is. Like I think that his speed with that route runner. I mean, bro, like it's the reason why. If let's say in a crazy world, Brian Thomas is there, you're like, yeah, I don't need to take Brian Thomas because there's so many guys right after it that are going to be around in the 40. Like there's going to be a run on wide receivers in the top of that second round that I don't think people are ready for. You might see like 6 wide receivers come off the board within like 8 picks because there's so many dudes that are like right there that's going to go like bang, 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 bang. Y'all going to remember I said this on the show, like there's going to be like 6 out of 8 picks in the top of that second round. They're just going to go off the board like boom, 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 boom. Because the only reason why you could justify not taking it in the first is because the guys that are going to probably be there right there in the second. And then, or you're looking at a top offensive lineman. Once the top offensive lineman go off, it's guns a-blazing time. And all these teams, why all the fans are like, yeah, just protect Joe Burrow. Them other teams are saying, cool, we want you to do that because we're going to go and get weapons and we're going to bang, 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 and we want you to shoot it out. And now we want Joe Burrow to come back on us when you're down 30-20. now come back and run with us because we just put all these points on the board. So everybody's thinking like so practical and simple, like just protect 9. Yes, protect 9, but now give them weapons, give them resources, update the run game, make sure your short yardage stuff is cool, make sure you can run the ball on 32. Think about all this stuff we talked about, the running back position. You got to do all these things to weaponize Joe Burrow so that you can maximize him, because he told you, I want leadership. Y'all got rid of Mixon, got rid of DJ Reader. He said, he stood on the table for T. Higgins. He said, I made things in my contract so that T. Higgins, guys like T. Higgins could be here. I want him here. We want him here. And people was just like, yeah, let's just trade him for a 3rd and a 5th. I'm like, are y'all not listening to Joe Burrow? bro, and I was in a space and somebody was like, I don't care what Joe Burrow says. I said, you better care about what Joe Burrow says, because in a couple years from now, if you ain't got a ring on your finger, it's going to be a different conversation with Joe Burrow that I don't think a lot of people are ready for. He doesn't ask for much, but whenever he says something, you better listen.
Yep. Yeah, he's definitely one of those guys, man, where you don't hear him talk and say things out of pocket a lot, right? Like when he's speaking, he's very good, almost like a politician talks, like I'm going to say the right things, I'm going to do the right things. But when he says them little tidbits of like, I want this, like he doesn't come out and say, I want this, but he says it in a way that sounds, it's like, no, like, what he's meaning. You know what I mean? Like, I think
he's very strategic, and he's very careful, and he's also very calculated on who he does an interview with, and he's very calculated on the timing of it. Remember, and this is everybody that's watching this. Remember, Browning was the quarterback. So at the end of the season, he didn't have to do the exit interview. He didn't have to do that last one where when he stood on the table with T. Higgins. He didn't have to do that. So all the people that aren't like paying attention to this is like, yeah, let's just trade T. Higgins or whatever. Go back and watch that press conference. He was asked the question, and then he added more context, and he added a lot of different things that the normal week-to-week Joe Burrow probably wouldn't add. And I always stuck with me, and I always think about that interview because he didn't have to do it. Jake Browning is the quarterback, so he didn't have to do the exit interview at the end of the season. And I thought it was very strategic how you put the emphasis on, we want T. Higgins to be here. We expect T. Higgins to be here. I made things in my contract so that T. Higgins could be here. Like, if that ain't a statement, I don't know what is. And if people say that they love Joe Burrow, like, I think the world of Joe Burrow. I think he's one of the greatest players that has ever put on a Cincinnati Bengal uniform. When he says stuff like that, I listen.
Right. No, I 100% agree with you, man. I do. And I got another receiver for you, Keon Coleman. So a lot of people say, his height, his size, it's comparable to T. So, and he ran a little slower. T's combine wasn't, super great. That's probably why we got him. But that doesn't always mean, they're not going to be good receivers or overall good players. Geno Atkins, he went to us, the 4th round, and look what he became. His size and stuff was a little different. And that's kind of something I'd like for the Bengals to do too, is maybe get something that maybe start that trend again. Because I feel like Geno, he started that trend of them 3 techs. But yeah, Keon Coleman, do you think he's, if he falls to the 2nd round, he'd definitely be a guy I'd be interested in. But I feel like too many people were just interested in him because the size comparison, because what T is, and thinking of replacing T. But Javon Baker, he's got to play inside, outside, and that's why I like Javon Baker. And if you can pick Javon Baker up in the 3rd over a Keon Coleman in the 2nd, I would go with Javon Baker. That's my choice. What would you think?
I think Javon Baker, because I think his 40, he ran like a 4.6. I think that will drop him down, because now I think you can't. You're right.
You mean Coleman ran the 4.6, not Baker?
Then Baker ran like a 4.5, and then Keon Coleman ran like a 4.6, right?
Yeah.
Somebody.
Yeah, but you said Baker ran the 4.6. I was like, I think you're talking about Coleman, right?
But both of them. But like, let's go back to Baker real quick. Both of them ran slow 40 times in today's NFL. 4.5 and lower means that you're playing the slot. But I'm like you. I think that That comment right there, that dude is spitting right there.
Yeah, David's awesome, bro. David's always in here.
He know that guy right there. He knows ball. So if y'all paying attention or listening to this on the pod, this is a really good comment. The 4-5 would generally mean that you would be playing on the inside, but Javon Baker, he has like this shiftiness to him where I feel like he could still flourish on the outside. But most teams are going to want speed, and I think that it might push Javon Baker down to like the bottom of the second, top of the third. And I think the Bengals, if I'm them, I go up and get him. I think that he represents what I think the Bengals offense should be like moving forward. It's like this multiple, Lad McConkey's like that too, to me too. It's like he's multiple. And the evolution of the Bengals offense is Jamar Chase has to be some games, 60% of the time, he might have to line up in the slot. Like, and it's just used to catch teams off guard. And they got to be multiple and I forget the guy that they brought in. God, his name escapes me. That came in from the Vikings. He should be able to talk to them about how.
Oh, the quarterback. I know who you're talking about. You're talking about one of the offensive assistants.
His name starts with his last name starts with like an R or something like that. He's going to be a part of like so. Like guys like that are going to be intricate. They're going to be very, very important that they're able to implement some of the stuff that they did for Justin Jefferson, where they were able to move him all over the field. And the one thing that I think that has made Joe Burrow less effective and this is why you can't just say, just protect 9, because if they're coming out in 11 personnel, 3 wide, then it's not protecting 9 in the sense of it's allowing defensive coordinators to be able to plan for them accordingly. And all they know is, okay, I just have my best nickel out there, and then I'm gonna stay in nickel for 90% of the game. I should be good to go. If Bengals come out there and pro sets and go under center, you got motion, you got wide receivers going to the slot, you got all these different things. Those are forms of protecting 9, but everybody gets so caught up in who has the best offensive line. The best offensive lines in the NFL can still get somebody killed. I watched Jalen Hurts last year get killed with a top 2 offensive line later in the season because they were not playing together. They had bad game planning, and they just gave up on the team, and they sucked towards the end of the year. So you can have the best offensive line in the world, but if you aren't scheming things correctly, like when we did the Colts game, think about that. Browning wasn't sacked. The run game was hitting. Screen game was hitting. Everything was on point, and those are ways to protect 9. You can protect 9 with weapons too, and because a guy like Brock Bowers, he'll line up at the line of scrimmage. Joe Burrow has the easiest read he's ever had as an NFL quarterback. If Brock Bowers is in line or he's flexed out in the slot, it's the easiest read that he ever has as a quarterback. I don't care if it's Aaron Donald or anybody right there. As soon as he hits height, the corner's not checking Brock Bowers. If somebody goes to help him, I know I have a one-on-one on the outside, balls out. And that's what it represents. So that people get so caught up in like just offensive line. I'm gonna tell you another thing that will protect the defensive tackle spot, because a lot of people have been talking D tackle. I don't think that the Bengals are gonna go D tackle early. I think they're gonna wait till like round, maybe as early as 2, but like round 3 is like kind of 3, 4.
If Michael Hall fell around 3, that would
I'm all over it. I'm all over
it. That'd be ideal.
Me and you are kind of on the same page on a lot of people. I'm starting to see.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna tell you one thing that will protect the D line. Go get a corner that's like shut down. Say it is the first round pick. I know we got PTSD from Dark.
I'm gonna show you my list. I'm not going to show you the list because this is part of the question.
Show the list.
But no, I'll show it later. So Arnold, I think there's a good chance the Bengals could take a cornerback in the first round.
If Kenyon Mitchell and Arnold is there,
yeah,
and the top offensive linemen are gone, yeah.
So one of my notes I wrote down for questions for you is right tackle a must at pick 18 if one of the top corners are available.
No, the only way I'm drafting a tackle in the first round is if it's Fashanu, or Fuaga. Those are my 3. And the reason why I picked those 3 is because I had the flexibility to be able to put them at left guard year 1. Latham is a tackle. Mims is a tackle. I don't know. What's the Guyton? I don't even want him. So think about it. So if those 3 are there, that represents premium player, premium position, impact early. If I get one of those 3, sure. I'm all in. Fuaga is my number one guy
Well,
that I
was
think.
my guy, bro. Look, I'll show you the list now. I don't know if you can read my writing. You see that?
I see it. Fuaga, Bowers. Yes, we understand. Those are my top guys. And then you got Arnold. I like Quinyon Mitchell more than Arnold though.
I do because his size, but he's a little more lengthy. His size, I think he's more of a shutdown. But yeah, I like him, bro.
But this is what we need to tell the people though too. Forget Darqueze Dennard, forget Dre Kirkpatrick, forget whatever. The reason why you do it is because you don't have a DJ Reader now. So on the back end, think about the Browns. The Browns had the worst run defense in the National Football League in the 2022 season. They come back 2023. They go man on the outside. They said, we got the best secondary. We're going to now free up all of our D tackles. We're going to throw bodies at the position. No, we're not getting a DJ Reader. No, we're not signing Christian Wilkins. We're going to throw Shelby Harris, Maurice Hurst, guys like that up front and throw bodies at the position. And then 2 is more than 1, 3, like throwing guys there. And on the back end, we're going to make sure that we can go man-to-man with whoever, and I dare somebody to try to throw for over 200-something yards on us. And that's how the Browns fixed their run game. And what they did is all their linebackers had career years because they're freed up now because they're not trying to dissect, am I reading a run? Am I doing all this stuff? Because now in the box, they were able to allocate an extra man into the run game. So it was kind of hard to run on them, even though some teams did kind of get off on them. But to me, that's a more practical approach than trying to replace DJ Reader, who's one of the most special noses to ever play football. Like, it's not happening. Like, you could go get a McKinley Jackson or something like that, or Tavondre Sweat, but year one, fresh out the womb, I just don't know if that, And then think about this: DJ Reader only played 58% of snaps. So you need to tell me y'all think a rookie is going to come out there and just start knocking people out the way. Oh, I'm a first round D tackle. Like, yeah, you're gonna get packed up just like everybody else. This is the AFC North. So I think the Bengals are looking at it like that.
But nose tackles don't go in the first round. Like, so you gotta look at value. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so this guy has to be special. He's got to be somebody special. Now, I like Newton a lot. Now, he's not a nose tackle. He's, more of a 3-tech pass rushing guy. I do like Newton. He's got a little more his year in, year out.
Like better than Kalijah Kancey?
Dude, I like Kalijah Kancey a lot. But last year when I was looking at Kalijah Kancey, I'm looking at pick 28. I'm not looking at pick 18. You know what I mean? So I think there's going to be...
The reason I asked you that is because Kancey got picked at pick number 19.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm looking more... Now, I like Myles Murphy a lot. And my record's pretty good with picking Bengals picks. Obviously, the first 2 years have been pretty easy, but for the past 4 years, I've been right on their picks. I had Dax, I had Jamar. Joe was pretty easy. I was definitely on the Jamar train, so that was easy. And then Myles Murphy. So this year, I'm looking to get it 5 straight, but it's a little more tricky, I think, at 18 because you have an idea who might slip, who might fall. They have a little more faults. I feel like 18, that middle of the pack, things get weird. It kind of in that area. I don't know. So I was looking at guys with high upside, but Fuaga is a dude. And I know you said you have to get out of here soon, but Henry hit on Brendan Rice. So Brendan Rice, I do like Brendan Rice, and I think it'd be his size, his ability. Like I do like him. But there's a guy that plays for USC that I really like in Taj Washington. Now I don't know if you know who Taj Washington is. But he's smaller, but he's got a little speed to him. Watch some tape on Taj Washington because this dude.
I see the name in mocks, but I don't know. I'm not familiar with his tape. No.
He's a later round guy. You might pick him up 5 rounds, 5 through 7. Just how teams are. I'm not going to predict on where he goes, but if he's there in the 5th round, depending on what we do in the first 4, he could be a guy that I would like just because I think he's a vertical weapon. I think you can scheme some things for him. I do like him a lot.
I think I was watching Malik Washington from VA yesterday or whatever. So I was looking at some. I'm looking at some guys I think go a little bit later, like fourth.
Yeah, Malik Washington's cool, man. I do like him. My buddy Dale put me onto Malik Washington. He has some good. He's got some good tape out there. I mean, he put up some yards last year. So if he's there like 4th round, and he's definitely Taj is not as compact as Malik is. Malik's more of a
Right.
he's got some weight on him for his size. I don't think Taj is all that heavy. I'm trying to think if I don't think I have
the cornerback part though. Did that make sense though? Like as far as like,
oh yeah,
you know, a lot of people been mocking like Murphy and Newton and stuff, and I'm
dude,
like,
I'm on the quarterback train because
bro,
I got to be.
They had a chance. They had a chance to go get D tackle last year with Jordan Davis, and think about him as a prospect. Like, he's a monster, and the Bengals ain't take him then. So y'all really think that they better get used to this cornerback talk? I'm gonna tell you the only offensive lineman that will be there that I didn't say. Remember, I said I like the 3 Fs. That's Fuaga, Fatano, and Fashanu. Right? If they're not there, this is the most Bengal pick of all time. It's like Jonah Williams 2.0. But I think in the run game, he's amazing. But I think J.C. Latham is going to be there. And to me, it's a safe pick. And Miles Murphy last year was safe to me too. It's a Bengals-like pick. I don't love the pick, but I'm not mad at it. But J.C.
Bro, Murphy's gonna be a dog, bro. I love Murphy.
So?
I loved Murphy. I think he's got Sam. I think he's got a little bit of Sam in him, and he's got a little Trey in him. I think he's got this mixture.
He's the Sam Hubbard. He's the Sam Hubbard replacement for sure, and he gives you the athleticism of a Carlos Dunlap like that. Yeah, it's like a 2-for-1 special.
Yeah, that's why I like him so much, bro.
But see, the reason why I think it was safe is because he had to switch sides, and then you had that learning curve, and then you're still paying Sam Hubbard almost like $10 million. So it's kind of safe. When I say like impact, I'm talking about like if they draft Brock Bowers, he started. I don't care about Mike. Mike Gesicki could play all he wants, whatever. Brock Bowers is playing.
You tight ends right there because you could put Gesicki in the slot and you can put Bowers on the line. And that I'm all for it, depending on how it falls. Like if Fuaga's there, I would choose just like I have written.
Fuaga over Bowers.
I would take Fuaga over Bowers, and then Arnold would be my next pick. So those are my top 3: Fuaga, Bowers, Arnold. Now, I think one of them have a good chance of being there, and then I put Latham just because I think Latham I think he's steady. I think he's a guy that can be a very steady dude. And then I got Murphy on the list. I did put Brian Thomas Jr. and that's kind of in comparison like how the board falls. Like if they really like Brian Thomas Jr., I could see that. If they love him, I don't know what they think about him. I
will love it. It would go crazy. Hey, look, we would have to go on Twitter and we would have to act like we're like, oh my God, what about the trenches? We got to protect. But inside my mind, I'm telling you right now, we're scoring 30 a game and nobody's going to stop me. Like nobody's stopping me. Because
10 picks.
We're doing a deep dive. Like the people that are saying that aren't looking at prospects like how you are. So they would be like, a wide receiver. Yes, you just lost your wide receiver 3 that just scored. I mean, that just had 6,000 yards, 513 catches. If any other NFL team lost that, they will be like, let's replace that. So that's number 1. Number 2, we know that T. Higgins, this is going to be like his last year with the Bengals. So you would have a Brian Thomas, 1 year of Brian Thomas, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins. You're scoring 30 plus. As long as Joe Burrow's healthy, right? And then you're taking a deep dive. Say I come back next round, I go get Rosengarten. I go get BB. Say I go get you see what I'm saying? Like I can get
the BYU kid that could fall there.
You got Kingsley. You got all of these guys that represent offensive tackle that will be the next heir apparent to Trent Brown that'll be there in the second round. And I think the Bengals will have to move up to go get a guy. They might have to, they could stay put. But if you went and did a Brian Thomas one, it's like Jamar Chase versus Penei Sewell all over again. Right. It's just you can't Jackson Carman in the second pick. And as long as they do that, I promise y'all, Joe Burrow is protected. And you're also now got your contingency plans for T. Higgins, and you're ready to score 30 points a game. This offensive line, like you asked me, who's the breakout person? Trent Brown is somebody that Burrow has never had. Trent Brown, he's never had a guy that could go on an island for 30 snaps a game and probably not get touched. Like Trent Brown is the real deal, bro.
Riley Reef is kind of where I'm putting this. Like, do you think he's going to play before Riley Reef got hurt? He was playing decent ball. So if Trent Brown could play a full season, counting playoffs, at a Riley Reef level, would you be satisfied with that? Now, obviously, his ceiling's higher, but before Reef got hurt, bro, he wasn't playing too bad. So I'm cool if he could play at that level. I would be happy with that. And he played all season, so you could get a steal. And Reef was a good pickup. And I think a lot of people kind of forget that. So I'm down with that. And then you come back, you can get, like I said, you get Michael Hall, or you get that dude row. I can't even say that guy's name, but yeah. So you could get there's some guys there, and there's a lot of positions that fall. Defensive tackle falls, like nose tackle falls. You can get McKinley. They kind of fall. So you got to get them premier positions. To me, if you get in the first 3 rounds, you pick up 4 guys that produced this year, and they are guys that they don't have to be all pros. They don't have to make the Pro Bowl, but if they play at a level above average NFL starter level or average NFL starter level, that's a killer draft. That's big time. You don't get that. You might get one guy that does that. So if you can pick your spots, there's a guy, we're talking about cornerbacks, TJ Tampa. TJ Tampa, I don't know if you've watched any tape on him, but he kind of reminds me of a Cam Taylor Britt.
He got cooked once. He's with Georgia, right?
Wait, against Georgia? He didn't play for Georgia. He played for Iowa.
All right. Am I getting my prospect? I'm getting my guys mixed up. He got cooked by somebody, like, I want to say, this might have been last year or whatever, but like it's somebody in the league now. It's like a famous game. Never mind, forget it. But go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I don't remember that, and he might have, but
it happens. I don't care.
But yeah, quarterbacks, it's going to happen.
Speaking of Iowa, what do you think about Lee on the front? I was watching him last week. So they got a D lineman, Logan Lee.
Oh, yeah. That dude,
I was watching him.
A little later round prospect. Yeah, but there's to
me, Gabe Hall, from Baylor. To me, what you're hitting on, and I gotta go. The draft isn't won in the first round. Like, I want the impact guy, the guy that goes crazy or whatever. Like, but the draft you might don't even use the 10 picks. But these guys, the teams in our division, think about it. The Browns haven't even had a first round pick. They've been kicking ass in the draft. Like, it's okay to like talk trash online or whatever, but at the same time, you got to be able to identify, like, hey, look, this is what somebody did really good. This is something that we could use. Brown's been kicking ass in the draft, and I think that you win these drafts later in the draft. So while everybody's arguing about who should we draft with the first round pick, I'm really more concerned with, are they hitting on the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th?
Mm-hmm.
Like 6 and 7, I'm not a stickler. Like, I don't, whatever. But 2nd, 3rd, 4th, I need instant impact. And I need guys to like go crazy like year 1. And I'm gonna tell you, I did an exercise while you're writing that on a sheet of paper. Go through the roster. You'll see that there's 11 spots, whether they do it through the draft, 11 to 12, whether they do it through the draft and they add a couple pieces in free agency. I still want them to sign Calais Campbell.
I do too.
that will go crazy.
Bro, just think like what we did with Uncle Mike and Von Bell. Like, even if this guy comes in and he plays 200 snaps through the season and he stays healthy, stays good, just a guy in there. So we do get a young guy on the D line this year. And plus we have Miles Murphy. We have some people that can be coached up, can be taught. You have that veteran presence, but during the playoffs, his production hasn't gone down. Like, it's not like he's not like going like this. Whoop. No, he's not. So his production stayed the same. He's older. Cansey would be a great pickup. I agree with you. I know you got to go, man. If you got anything else to toss in, I'm sorry. I know you said 30 minutes, and now we're at an hour and 5 minutes, bro.
Yeah, it's all good, man. This is how it is when you really love talking football, man. I really, really appreciate you having me on. I know I was a little later, so too. I appreciate your patience with me. And I thank everybody just for, sticking with the Bengals all this time. I know everything doesn't go exactly the way that we want it to go. I know that everything doesn't go, like, what you want the Bengals to do or whatever, but I do appreciate everybody sticking with this team. And you're not going to like everything I said today. You're not going to like everything Dusty said or whatever. But at the same time, I think we all want to win together. And that's why we're part of this Bengals army. Make sure y'all check me out. It's an app called playback.tv. It's a group that we got. It's called the Ringless Bandits. It's a funny name that somebody might have gave us one time, but we just use it because we like talking football. But we break down film and we start talking about it just like on Twitter Spaces, but we have video to go with it. But check that out. And then also I do a pod called the Cincinnati Pod with me and my bro Ace. Mon has a show on there as well called the Bengals Pulse. And then also I have really good merch and cool stuff on ZimWHODEY.com.
Right on, buddy. Once again, man, appreciate you coming on. Sorry for keeping you on. I told you I talk all day about stuff, and when we get going, sometimes it is what it is, bro. But I appreciate it, man. Enjoy the eclipse if you watch it or whatnot. Stay safe out there.
You need special glasses to watch the eclipse?
Nah, man. I'm just gonna stand out there and see what happens. I guess
don't do that. Don't do that.
I mean, I'm not going to look at it. I'm not going to fry myself up. But
what time is the eclipse?
I'm sure. For us, it's 4. Or no, for us in Central Ohio, I think it's like 3. Is what my wife was saying.
Yeah, I think I'm in DC. I think it's like 3 o'clock. But so I'm actually about to go get my son from school. But yeah, I don't think. Yeah, don't look at it. If y'all listening, don't listen to Dusty. Do not go outside and go look at it.
No, I'm sure my wife got glasses. She's always on that stuff. So I'll just be out there chilling. I don't know. But like I said, man, Zim, you're awesome, bro. I appreciate it. I know you came on when this thing first started and come back on. We'd love to have you back on after the draft and maybe get some takes after the draft, bud. And then your boy Mon's awesome. I don't know if he's still in here listening, but Mon's that dude, bro. But
Let's do it, man.
You want to plug anything else?
No, that was it, man. Like I said, it's an app on your phone. It's free. It's called playback.tv. Just look for Zim WHODEY or the Ringless Bandits. It'll pop right up. It's really dope if you're really into the draft because we actually do free all 22. Like none of this costs, but all 22 on some of your favorite draft prospects. We also do all 22 on different games that we played. Like last week we did Bengals versus Steelers. Where a lot of people be like, I don't know how to get access to all 22 or I don't want to pay for it. Like come to playback.tv. You could talk about it. There's a live chat. But that's one thing I've been really, really pushing. I don't think we're going to do one today, but generally it's like every day for an hour or so. But we're in there just grinding out film, watching different tapes. So if you got guys that you like, send it my way. I'm going to get you set up on there. You're going to come on there and then you don't have to talk or you could just chill and watch whatever you want to do, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it, buddy. I'll be on there. I'll be checking it out here in a little bit. But once again, I appreciate you and WHODEY. We'll see you, bud.
WHODEY.